make it more for your community, tailored to what your community is, because every place is a little different. Another big one is, well, there goes a football team. No one's going to go out for sports anymore. It's, everything's trash. You're going to turn all these kids away. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Indiana study a couple years ago, they did 65 Indiana schools that had drug testing. The majority reported that student drug use had decreased as the program began, and it did not affect student activity participation. High schools' drug testing program exceeded the state average for test scores, and on state-mandated graduation tests, as well as exceeding the state average for graduation rates, and 46% reported increases in athletic activities. So, and I've also, and I welcome people to talk to the schools that we currently test. I don't know what the dotted line or the straight line is between the two, but most of our schools have not had a decrease, they've had an increase in participation. I can't scientifically link the two, but I do know what the facts are. So,
where are most of the schools located? Is this across different states, across Cleveland, Akron?
Most of our
are they
are
rural
Ohio.
communities?
Yeah, in Ohio.
Outside schools.
The mostly smaller to medium-sized schools. I found that it's tough to get into like the great big, like Toledo Public School System or whatever. They just have too much. I don't know. It's just hard to do. It's mostly smaller to medium-sized schools. Perrysburg, where I'm from, they have a population of about 2,500, I believe. We do schools that have a population of, I know testing-wise that there's only a couple hundred in the pool. So little schools, big schools, it's really a matter of the community and the school, what they're willing to do to help kids stay off the drugs. I'm a parent of 5, I get it. I wish, even though I have a company doing this, that it wouldn't be the case, drug test kids and such, but the reality is, stuff that's out there nowadays is significantly different than what's been out there in my day. I was from the 70s, the sex and drugs, rock and roll, and all that stuff. So the stuff they got now is just synthetic marijuana, bath salts, et cetera, stuff that it's getting more and more dangerous. The newest thing around is the e-cigarettes, which, okay, maybe not a big deal for that. They're now finding liquid marijuana and marijuana wax and such in the e-cigarettes, so that you can't smell it. It used to be at least you could smell it on your kids and such. Now you can't smell it. The next step, and it's starting to come around, is, well, what else can you dissolve in that? Well, how about that? How about heroin? How about whatever? It's making the ingestion of these drugs easier, and there's more stuff coming down the line than what used to be back in my day and a lot of our days. So, and again, what we're trying to do is just prevention. So, what does that mean for the program itself? So, what do we do? Well, we will come in first for the random testing. We'll get a list from the school, and we put it in our random number generator. It's a certified DOT random number generator, same one that we use for the airline pilots, truck drivers, et cetera, et cetera. They'll say, for example, well, give us 15 kids, and let's say there's 200 in the pool. So we just simply punch it in, a list pops out. We will either email or whatever the secure way is to the designated official, which at this point I'm not exactly sure who that is, but that's who we talk to, designated official. In other words, coaches, parents, and such. We do not give out information to anybody except the designated official. It's confidential, everything. So we will come in then to the school. We do the random testing. We will have a secure area. Honestly, I'm not sure which area it is here yet. We haven't surveyed it, but we'll have the kids go in. They give us their name. It's randomized by a number. They go in, they give a specimen, and come back out, and they go. Pretty much as easy as that. Most kids are in and out in like 5 minutes. We take a slight, I like to take a slight impersonal approach, very friendly, nice, and everything, but it's just like, okay, thank you, name, next. I've heard some parents before say, oh, our kids are just going to be mortified, our kids are going to be, but they're not. They after, especially the first couple times, they're in and out, and half the time they don't even tell their parents or anything just because it's not a big deal. They're used to it. Just like if they were working at McDonald's or someplace. But they come in, we make sure of all the normal procedures, can't go with extra hats and coats and backpacks, et cetera, et cetera. When they come back out, they give us a specimen, they sign out, verification that, yes, this is my number, and that matches my name, and this is my specimen, and then off they go. What we do then is we will screen the test right away, and we will then take any non-negatives to a certified laboratory. Okay, well, so what does that mean? If you would send something to a laboratory, straight to a laboratory, what they'll do is they'll screen it, kind of like a pregnancy test, it's yes or no. There's cutoff levels, and if it's above a cutoff level, like let's say marijuana, if it's above the marijuana cutoff level, it will be 1 line instead of 2, just like a pregnancy test. So if they all are negative, we're done in the story. If there is a non-negative, and please note I say non-negative, I don't say positive. If there's a non-negative, that will get packaged up, certified laboratory, and it will be sent out. And then the certified laboratory will give us a report. It goes to our MRO, medical review officer, who is a physician that specializes in drug testing. He'll go through it, and then there'll be a call made, and I forget on your school whether it goes, I think we call them directly, we call parents and find out if there's anything that needs to be known about that. A good example is, let's say there's an opiate positive. It comes back, and we will now call the parent and say, well, is there any reason that there should be this? I mean, well, as it had this wisdom teeth pulled like 3 days ago, and it's on time off through its coating, and we'll look up, say, okay, can I get your prescription number? Great, okay, fine. That kid is not positive. I heard someone mention ADHD. That's actually the most common thing that comes up. They are not positive. They're screened out, and they're considered negative then because they have a prescription for it. Now, we have had cases where there was like 2 best friends. One was on ADHD medicine, one was not. They both came up. So that means a friend was giving, his friend, drugs to stay up all night or whatever. So the bottom line with that is that it goes through a rigorous process, and every stage of this process will fall on the line of the child, fall for the child. If there's any abnormalities, if there's anything, it always falls for the kids. Because again, we're not trying to catch people, we're not trying to, and we don't report things to the police or anything like that. We're just trying to give kids another reason to stay down. So once the testing is all complete, again, our hope is that we just screen them all here, and then we go to our person and say, we're all done, thanks, see you later. But if there is something that's certified positive, then it goes to the designated school official, and then they take it from there. Our job is to test and report, whatever happens after that point. Now, there's also some questions. I hear this all the time. I'll just answer this one too. Like, well, what about if we're going to do nicotine? Well, what about secondhand smoking? Well, that's why there's cutoff levels. The cutoff levels that are used typically by the insurance companies because they determine whether you're a smoker or not, and it's the tried and true levels. But you have to have enough caffeine and nicotine in your system to be above that cutoff level, and above that cutoff level means that no, that wasn't because your parents smoked and you had to sit in the living room with them. This is because it's direct ingestion.
Why is nicotine on the list anyways? It's not a controlled substance.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes, it is. If you are not 18, you can't have it. So there's a good part of your population.
You can't buy it, yes.
Well, you can't.
That's true.
You can't.
But I mean, I started smoking when I was 16. I mean, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's healthy, but it's an added cost. Is it not?
No, it's part of our package. If someone wanted to take nicotine out and put something else in that time, it gives you more bang for the buck that way. That's why we say this is the amount for the test. Now, if someone if they wanted like that test plus a whole bunch of others, then it can be an added cost. But we work with the budgets to make sure that's why our
So they're allowed so many different drugs per package?
Yeah, and what we try to do is, like, the whole budget, like, this is it. You said, like, let's say $2,000. Okay, that's it. We're going to stay within that. Now, sometimes we can do a 10 count, sometimes we can do extra things. But that way, you can get, like, 50 different drugs you can test for, but we don't ever want to tell kids that, no, we're only testing these 5, because what if they decide, like, oh, I don't think you're testing heroin, so I'll try it. No, we don't ever want to do that. We don't want the kids to know what we're testing at any point, just so we may test for all the drugs that are.
I just think that nicotine being on the list is ridiculous myself.
That's back to the policy, but the only other thing is that it may or may not be tested for, but it's just, kids, once you start having, that's another tough.
Excuse me, you said that these could be tailor-made.
Mhm.
So would it be up to the schools to decide what is on and what is not, up to the board member?
It normally goes
If
between.
let's say we don't want nicotine, alcohol, and over-the-counter drugs, we want all the heavy-duty drugs, period. Can that be arranged?
If they ask for something like that, yes, they can. We can make it into pretty much, I mean, there's some limitation, you can't have every conceivable variant out there,
Right,
but pretty much
but
you
We
can't.
can't eliminate alcohol, nicotine, and over-the-counter drugs. That can be done.
It can be done, I'm not really sure why we would want to, and I wouldn't want to tell kids you would want to do that either.
Well,
Um,
it's up to the board, you're selling them,
Yeah,
you're the
that-
salesman, yeah.
Well, it's whatever they want to do, it's here.
Right.
Speaking of alcohol, some people might say, well, if you are doing drugs, now there's going to switch over to pounding down a 12-pack on Saturday night, and what did you accomplish? Well, I'd say it's like a tennis match, it goes one side and it goes the other. So now there's a test that's out there, it's called ETG alcohol, and it will show positive alcohol use from actual drinking, not just mouthwash or whatever, for up to 80 hours. Now, would you do that test every time? I don't know. That's, again, up to the school, up to the budget and everything else. But I call that advertising because I tell the kids, and I hope everyone does this, yes, you can test for that. So no, it's not okay to pound a 12-pack on Saturday night. It can be tested for. Other things
alcohol
that-
to take the hit on?
Yeah, you're saying
That-
how much alcohol?
How much alcohol does it take to go 80 hours?
80 hours, I don't have the mathematical, whatever.
They have one beer, is it gonna show up in 80 hours?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, so when my daughter has wine at church, because we're Catholic, she's going to be positive when we start this whole program?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. That's where it goes back
That's
to.
a big issue, I think I would consider that.
Judy, is she drinking a glass of wine in communion? I think she's
No.
got that.
He said, maybe a beer. It's
Well,
my religion.
Well, I think
My kids
I'm Catholic myself, so I'm not the equivalent of a beer. I'm
You don't
asking
know.
a question, Renee, I'm allowed to ask questions.
Deb,
Deb, go ahead.
What
I got a question there. I do give my son, if we're at somewhere he wants to taste it, I let him have a drink. He don't drink. My older son did a thing that says, you let the kids learn that when they hit a certain age, they're not over drinking. It's completely beside the point. But there are a lot of people that feel that it is healthy for you to have a glass of wine at dinner.
It's scientifically proven.
So, I mean,
Parents' choice.
so when they're testing positive, and they call the parents, would the parents be able to tell them, yes,
For a child
it was, it brings me
They didn't be in a bar with their parent children.
I mean, I'm not condoning drinking, because I've told my kids, and I'm very straightforward with my son about this, but I think if it's tested positive for somebody to have a drink or two, what is that, 4 days later? I don't know, no. But, I don't know, I don't think a drink is hazardous. My husband has a drinking problem. First thing I told my kids is, you don't know whether you're gonna be an alcoholic or whether you're not. So, I understand the concern, but I don't know whether the law has changed or not, but I know when I was younger, my mom served me in a bar, and it was legal.
Deb, let me say one thing. The priority of this is not tobacco and alcohol.
Right, so that was the question, okay, can I say this? That was the question that a lot of people were concerned about, the lower risk drug, weed, drinking.
Right.
Prescription.
Tylenol.
What we want to know is, are we going to be able to rely on you to test for heroin, meth? I don't know what all is out there.
Well,
Synthetics that are out there.
that's all this is about.
You guys are
Well,
picking
I think a lot of
right?
people, are concerned, you're saying, we don't want to tell you that we're not going to test for that, but I think a lot of people are concerned that that might be what you're.
Look, I did this, I grew up in the 70s too, and it was a great time. I'll be the first to tell you that I experimented with this stuff. But, and I will also tell you that I told my boys, when they were 18 years old, if they wanted to go crack a beer by the fire with me, that they could, because if they were old enough to go to Iraq and die at 18,
Right.
they could sit here, not over at their buddy's house. They could sit here.
Exactly, and I think
and have a
that's
beer.
what the concern is, if we're allowing it in our own home, it's different from, I don't let you drink, and they're at a buddy's house pounding down a cake.
Yeah, we're not trying to...
They've done that too.
The whole premise of this thing is not trying to tell you guys how to raise your kids. I have 4 kids, but you know what? I have a drug test at home as well.
Exactly.
And I've told them, don't make me make you pee in the bar.
Walking in.
But that's your choice.
Yeah, that's my choice. But listen,
Why do you have the other things on there? Why do you have the nicotine, the Tylenol?
Talk about Tylenol. Tylenol, major concern. Tylenol and Mike,
My daughter has to take that every month. Why do we
The
cover
only
every
way that
month?
that's ever a problem is if, another real good one is like the cold remedies, Dayquil and all that stuff, NyQuil.
I give my
You
daughter
take
that
a-
every night.
I drink NyQuil like it's water sometimes.
That therapeutic dose is not gonna show positive. If you drink a bottle of this stuff, you got a problem, and you do need to be tested. So, but that's what the difference is, like the cutoff levels. Therapeutic levels of over-the-counter drugs and some prescription drugs, actually, are not positive.
So why are they on the list?
I think because the whole point is prevention, because why would you ever want to tell your kids it's okay to do those things? Have it on the list, doesn't mean you have to do it. We have some things, the list is like hundreds of things long, you can't afford to test for everything. But you don't want to encourage your kids to say, oh, don't worry about this. You're
Why
good
would they
at this."
abuse Tylenol?
I don't know why our kids do half the things. I got 5.
Why would they abuse bath salts? I mean,
That's.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
Actual bath salts that's in your bathroom.
well, I understand, but I'm just, there's a multitude of things. The problem is that there's bad people in this community, in this county, in this state, and in this nation that want our kids on drugs. They want them hooked on drugs.
Well, the current
All right.
situation with everybody here is with the money. You're paying for a kid, okay? But yet you're not including the heavy stuff, you're including some really silly things in there, the nicotine, the Tylenol. Why don't you put something heavy in there, swap it out?
That,
I think that's.
it's on the list. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get tested for.
You don't know.
We're not gonna know because they're making and swapping it out, right?
Take it out.
They're gonna choose.
Nobody really knows what's gonna show
I still don't
up.
understand,
all right.
I don't understand why we're spending our money on this instead of books and other things that the school needs.
Out of the tests you do, how many come back as a positive or a not negative?
It's such a novelty.
What percentage? In general?
Community is different.
Okay.
But at
Give me an average.
different level, it's usually between 1 and 3%.
I spent $3,000 on.
There's some schools that started out like 67%, and then year 3, they're down to
But I spent
either half a
$3,000 to make
percent.
1,000.
What that means is,
Homecoming.
Another thing
for
that
example,
While the drive.
again, it's hard to get a straight line.
You know, they,
So,
what minutes is this
you know,
involved?
they haven't had very many positives.
On the
They only had a
driveway.
couple.
How much did that
Started
cost?
last year.
How
Last
much
year,
did the automated cross does that cost? Does that bother me?
$20,000.
I don't see, I never understood why we
This
notice
is going
the
to
notice
come
or get up in the morning on a snowy day, they don't take it like we always did.
This is the
How
only
much
cost.
does that cost?
I don't know.
That automated cost has been here for years, it was never used. It was never used.
Hold on. We need to let him talk, so some people can't hear.
Why is this?
No, you're right, you're right. That's the
Supreme Court. No, Supreme Court.
But still, discrimination against those kids.
Well, no matter how you put it, there's an opt-in program, so everyone.
But you're forcing
You're forcing
the athletes, the extracurricular activities, honor students, student council, and in the policy, it's.
By law, it's in education,
stuff, you don't have to play a score.
Oh, I have another
Everything
question.
is-
How many, false positives, what's the percentage?
0. And here's why. During this process, there's multiple checks and balances, and again, everything falls on the side of the student. So if there's, because first there's the screening test, and the screening tests are higher than the actual cutoff levels. For example, if it screens at 50 for marijuana, it confirms positive at 15. Part of that's because marijuana degrades during the period of time of transfer, but again, screening, and it goes down to 15 for the actual positive for the lab. Then MRO goes through, he also goes through the process to make sure it's like, well, what if there was some discrepancy in the testing process? He goes through all that, and again, everything goes to the side of the student, and most schools then also, again, all we do is report, and most schools have a policy, and I'm not so sure how this one works, but there's an appeal process also. For example, our part of the appeal process, let's say that a positive for marijuana or whatever, and you're just adamant, no way, that lab is wrong. You can take that same specimen, and we do use the same specimen because otherwise the kids will just be removed or it'll be out of the system by the time they get a new test. And you can send it to another certified laboratory. You can pick laboratories on this certified, not just some lab from somewhere. Or if you don't know any, you can pick one. There's a cost involved, of course, but
At the parent's cost.
that appeal, well, that's back to the board thing, I'm not sure, but that's how it works. But that process then, you can have it retested. Now, I'll tell you again from experience, that we've been doing this for almost 15 years, and it's been available every time, and every year we have one or two parents that say they want to do that. We've only had one that actually ever did. And I don't believe it's a cost back, I don't believe it's anything else. It takes a few days for this to go back and forth. Again, I'm a parent, I get it. You talk to the kid about it each one of those days, I'm sure. If they catch the story a little different, whatever, wait a minute, the kid admits to what really happened. Again, we're not trying to catch it. And the whole part of the policy too, if you notice what the consequences are. The consequences are not, we're reporting to the police, because number one, you can't, and number two, I won't be part of it. The consequences are, look, please, 2 paths you can do, A or B. And that's what my kids do. I hope you pick A. A, we're going to get you assessed, because you know that you're getting tested. You know all this type of stuff, and you're 14, and you're positive for illegal drugs. You got a problem? Let's see. Get assessed. Then go on from there. Or B, oh, you don't want to do any of that? Okay, I understand. You're out. I mean, you just can't let people continue to do everything that they won't without any consequence.
What happens when an 18-year-old tests positive for nicotine?
That's a good question. That usually reverts back to the original school policy that's already in place where it says, you sign saying, I promise not to drink, and I promise not to smoke, and I promise, et cetera, et cetera.
You can test them still if they're 18?
If they sign consent, yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, they promise not to smoke on school grounds. What if they have parental permission to smoke at home?
That,
What do you guys, can we ask you now, or you want to wait till later?
We can wait.
Okay.
We'll wait.
I have a question about how the results are communicated. And this may be for the board. Is it possible to just give the parents the results, or does your company have to give the results to the designated person and the principal? And we get the phone call from them and not you? Is it possible that let's cut the school out of this?
Well, the school will eventually have it, it's their policy.
Well, I'm just curious
But
if it's
I
in the
don't remember,
spirit of...
I apologize, I don't remember whether we had set up that we will...
You will call, we have it set up where you will call a positive result. The company will call you as the
Okay,
parent.
in that case, the school actually would not be involved with that, because again, we'll get the information, we'll have like those people to call, and we will contact you, talk back and forth. And again, the ADHD is a great thing, Adderall or whatever. Oh, it's fine, okay, so there's nothing goes back to the school saying, well, this was positive, but now, it doesn't need, that's also why we don't ask for, like, I don't want to know your list of medications that you're on before you take the test. Some of them might not even show up, some of them might not be tested for, some of them might be on a therapeutic level. I don't need to know that they're on antidepressants or birth control, or I don't want to know any of that, unless it comes up as a non-negative, and it comes back and says, well, there's cocaine in your system, there's opiates in your system, then we need to get that cleared up, or if they can't clear it up. What's that?
School will know because it's part of the program.
Does it?
You will contact the school, not just the
For
parents.
positive, yes. Positive, yeah, most definitely, because that's the school's program, because that's how they have to start please give an assessment and et cetera, to give kids some help.
And it's a requirement for, say you were calling me and asking me of my child, if there was any reason there would be something in her system.
Yeah.
And then you follow up with a question, well, what's the prescription number? What if I'm not comfortable giving you, someone I don't know, a prescription number? Is it
Then
now,
there's-
okay, well, then she tests positive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I would say at that point, then you'd have a conversation with, again, all we do is report, and then what happens after the reporting
I understand.
goes back to the school. So then you would have a conversation with these gentlemen here, and then if they wanted to.
But you don't have a prescription number for over-the-counter drugs. Tylenol, Advil, NyQuil. We don't, we're
And,
going to give you a prescription number, there is no.
NyQuil's another good example. It's kind of, it depends on which one you get, but it's got some really nasty stuff in it that, again, therapeutic levels won't be positive. If they're taking enough NyQuil to pop positive, they got a problem. You can't go around in high school and drink a bottle of NyQuil a day and survive. So
What's your cutoff?
So it's therapeutic of taking according to the directions.
over-the-counter directions, yes. And I'm not the MRO, but he's got all the
Oh, okay.
numbers, so it is a.
But if you take it according to what the package is saying, that's equivalent to therapeutic.
I'm an
Yes.
MRO with my military unit, and I can tell you, one of my soldiers, I had several of them pop up for therapeutic, but above that level, and go to say that they've taken it according to the bottle. The bottle says take every 4 to 6 hours for 6 days, and you take it 4 to 6 hours for 6 days, you test it the next day, it's not gonna pop up in your system. I can assure, I mean, I am certified in the MRO on the military side, and that is how it is. It's, I mean, like you said, if they're drinking a bottle a day, they have a problem.
A couple questions. I've been to every board meeting here, and I can't believe some of the people, when it goes to your kid, that you're at every board meeting around here, then you come in afterwards and ask all the questions that has been publicized. I had 3 kids. At that time, they didn't have drug testing, but I, as a parent, supervised the drinking. At that time. And when I came out of service in '65, that's when it all started, our generation. Now, Mr. Jones, he was at a couple places and he talked to me how I felt about it. I said, if you save one life, there's a lot going on in this community, then I think we've done our job for, what's a child's life worth? Some of my questions, how many schools around here doing testing around this area within 50 miles?
Should have brought my whole list, but.
I mean, let's go, who's the closest? And I think we are the first.
Western Reserve is the closest. We were the
Yeah.
first in Portage
Okay.
County.
Next question, if you're doing any tests, is it done here at the school where you call 15 to double?
Yes. Right here.
Supervised by personnel from the school?
Correct, there has to be someone there to.
The way I heard somebody explain this, as a parent, you can opt out and you do not want your child that is in sports to be drug tested?
That's back to
If you do that, then the student does not participate in that said activity.
Another question I had.
Did you say opt-in though, or did you say opt-out?
Well, they didn't want your kid.
If you don't want to test it, they can't participate.
Oh, okay. The last question I had when I was at all these meetings, and working in the industry where I work, they brought up drug testing, and a lot of guys fought it. I was in a trade, electrician's trade, I think everybody now is tested in the, if you work construction, which I think, I've had guys work with me next to me, that it wouldn't have been that drug problem, or the testing, that man would probably have been dead today.
But they're also adults.
They're adults, but to work with a person next door to you, next to you, that could cost you your life, there's a jeopardy there.
That's a skilled trade with adults.
Skilled trade doesn't still testify. It comes down to OSHA, the OSHA rules.
Adults, not children.
Last question. I always thought, if you're gonna test my kids, that's the question brought up here, why aren't the teachers being drug tested? And the answer was, it's in their contract. At this time, until they open up negotiations till the next time, it could be put there. So I think eventually, there's people that drive your kids out, pick them up at school or at your home and take them, they're drug tested through personnel in this school are drug tested, but eventually I just cannot believe why you see, and it's an epidemic, you can't, I mean, it's right on our backyard, it's down the streets over here. There's a kid right now, he's 18 years old, went to the school, I just talked to the mother-in-law, he's gonna do 4 or 5 years time because he got that heroin. Too bad that thing wasn't here in this school when he was here, might have saved him from going to 4 years of prison.
Well, I don't know that if the people that are not for this are for not saving your kids' lives. I mean, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Bring you down your rights.
That is exactly right. I am a parent, I'm not an educator. So, I don't play teacher, you don't play parent. Bottom line. But to say that, well, if we can save one kid's life and insinuate that if, for those of us that are against it, must not want to save lives, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
But the
But
people,
I
here's my thing,
that is
the people that you elected to put on the school board that represent you made a decision in this community, it was a 5-0 vote when I was here.
I saw it.
I mean, a lot of
You
people
know, that video makes it possible.
But a lot of people don't see that.
The email that was sent out that was discussed earlier, I responded, I was in the 30% that did not agree. So I don't, you know,
But in this
I understand what you're
society, there are rules.
saying. I'm involved in this.
Or it was 1% in the community, that doesn't even make sense. You didn't represent the majority.
It's like the people that don't go vote on
Correct,
election.
I think everybody should.
Or the people that don't
vote.
show up at a meeting that represent your kids. Or the teacher meeting where you only got, in high school, how many kids did you last night? Oh, there was 10 parents that really cared about their kids. That's the end result.
Life is a lot different today for
I
parents.
realize that.
You know, how long have you been retired from the working world?
I'm raising 2 kids and working 2 jobs to
Yeah.
do that. Don't tell me I don't care.
But if your student is an
Society
honorable,
makes
you don't really feel the need that you have to
Right.
call for early so that you can go to speak to the teachers when your child's on the honor roll.
Right.
I mean, there's not a problem. I mean, just because you're not there doesn't mean you're not concerned. It means that it's not necessary.
What not to do?
It would save my childhood.
You know,
But
My
your
child
child,
plays on a Friday night, and I raised 3 of them.
right, but your
We
child,
do
Your
not.
child.
your child.
They have test hours, you
It's
can test
not
your
someone
own
else's.
children.
But.
And why
in
not
this-
test all the kids? Why are
in
we
this-
starting
in
with
this society, you have the right to
Because it's a violation without parental
My
consent,
son
they
doesn't-
have to make it voluntary.
My son doesn't fall within any of those 3 groups.
Right.
So is my kid not.
See, the bulk of the kids that are the drug problem.
It's the way the Supreme Court currently rules. Layman's term for it is the government makes you go to school, so therefore they cannot make you take a drug test. Everything that's tested for is an extra privilege that's provided by this
My
school.
son's getting ready to get his
Or
drug
that's
test.
how it
That's
works.
not a privilege. We paid for that. I don't even
Well,
want to get a
the
drug
government
test.
makes you go to
Bobby
school.
going in hard, pee in a bottle.
But that's what they consider.
Yeah, my daughter.
You're not allowed to
It's
teach
stopping me from running
towards graduation. So in other words,
He's a very private
you never say, well, we're
Right.
going to kick you out, or
Being
we're
private,
going
I have to pee in a
to, or
bottle.
we're going to
Yeah,
something.
just take away the money and
I don't even have a child in athletics. My name is Bird of football. Because we have to have athletics. Because we're going to be taking over.
No, not my.
I was concerned about cost.
What type of drug What type of drug test would it be?
That's correct. You get a copy of our policy, it gives a list.
But I think it's good to have it.
Pulling the air.
Because again, that's at the far end of someone's positive, because that's not where the program is. The program is, that's what the applicant is positive, such as not where what we're after is again, all kinds of social changes, life, it's not gonna eradicate all the
They also come up with
but
something
it gives kids one more reason to say, I wish all of our kids, you know, it's like, no, I just have this metal, I just have this whole I'm not gonna do anything. Peer pressure, I think, is-
When you were in high school, you got to decide whether
There's already somebody in school that mortifies me and she's got
Well, you
information.
decided for your individual self. So are we adults, are we gonna let our kids try and make decisions on their own, or are we gonna force them to do what we want?
I'm finding out something.
I mean, they're right there.
I can't talk.
I know you have kids, but I know.
I went to the highway, I brought in the board.
Because I want one person that it's not a big deal.
I honestly trust the response.
Because I think the more people that
That's what this really is. Trust the verify. Most of the kids, most of the kids.
No one has to know.
The thought is, you might get tested, don't do this. Make the right choices. Some people might call it crunch.
I'm not so opposed to the results go. Mr. Creighton and ruin somewhere. Either adding
Okay, you want to keep yourself what if they do it generally do and they clean themselves up for one season, what happens then, and they start again? Well, they have gone that, what is it, 90 to, without, hopefully, they.
See you guys.
They don't have. Noticing the forensic sort of idiots, because they're all getting high.
Well, right now, right now,
And that's, I'm just talking from part of my.
I don't know.
Maybe because I don't have any children in athletics, it's really none of my business. But I am a taxpayer, I did help pass this, let me, if I don't have talking to my neighbor. And so it is my money being spent. And I think that I just think that we're going to be, if this is going to be implemented, why not use it correctly?
I think that it's standard procedure to include everything that can be listed. With the understanding that everything might not.
If they test positive, it requires that they can buy more.
So you have to, so
Yes.
I would say that.
Would your company
my
handle that?
understanding of what's going on is
Yeah, we
that
We make sure that, we like to keep it consistent, because, you go to different places, they might not have the same standards.
Well, my question is,
Driving.
those five aren't covered.
So we're not even clear on
How much do they charge? Next five?
We go to school, you said you work within that.
We need one conversation.
That's probably budget.
That's all. So you would build them, they would build.
Question. Let's say they take a drug test. Okay, hold on. In my understanding, it's a urine test, correct? That's the only type of test being done?
Yeah,
And
you're
it comes
saying
up,
only does your.
okay, and it comes up positive.
Mhm.
Okay. How soon is the notification to the parent?
Usually, once we bring it back, it's 24 to 48 hours that it comes back.
Okay, if they want to contest it,
Mhm.
okay, who's responsible for that?
They would tell, they typically would tell the school at the time, because it would come back as a certified positive.
Now the
Certified laboratory, and then through our MRO, and then there wasn't a prescription, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So now it's a positive. So now it goes to the school, and the school
They
says.
came out a little late. Can you go through if it's a non-negative and how you contact them first before?
Well, yeah, that's
because-
how the process goes. We'll screen it, we send it, any abnormalities to the lab, the lab will verify it's a positive, we'll talk to the parents, there's no prescription, so therefore it's a positive, then we notify the school, and then you then have the opportunity to say, I don't believe that laboratory tested it correctly.
Okay.
And you could ask for it to go to a separate laboratory. And if you know of a certified laboratory that you like, for whatever reason, or just, we can find one too.
Okay, and he comes back and we prove the kid was innocent.
That's done.
Okay, who pays for the expense of me proving my kid was on supplements that come up as a narcotic?
If it comes back that it's what we've typically done, and again, we've only actually said one.
No, my question is the expense, the time and money and energy I spent to prove.
If it comes
You can
back,
falsify those.
what we would do is if it comes back, the same, the parent will take care of that expense. If it would come back though that it's, the original test was positive, now this one's negative, then I'll take on that expense. Because again, everything.
Who will take on the expense?
I will. My company.
The school.
No,
Oh, you're,
no,
My
it's a
company.
third party.
Oh, you're coming, okay.
Because I believe that, this is our program, and again, we don't want to try to get kids or anything, and if there's something, that also tells me that maybe there would be something wrong
Well,
with
then
something.
Well, here's my question. Has that ever happened?
No.
No, well, I'm in aviation, and we do drug tests quite a bit, just urine, and we have a union, and quite a bit, it comes back and gets contested, and they win.
Usually they'll
Because urine
win.
tests are very limited.
Okay.
For the
I
stuff
also-
that you say you're testing for. I mean, you really got to start pulling hairs, I think, too.
Well, you
Because
could,
you're limiting me to prove my innocence, if you say I got to wait 24 hours to be notified.
well, the test has to.
I know.
You don't know anything in the meantime. And also, by the way, during that period of time, there's no like suspension until it comes back or whatever, like when we first started getting on normality, there's no suspension and such. And the thing about the union stuff, they normally go over and try to loophole and deal with procedures, which is sometimes easy to do, but that's not what, we don't have to follow these procedures. We're not doing airline pilots or truck drivers on the students, so it's a whole different process. But because we do those type of tests, we know that. I'm
Well, I'm
actually.
just saying, kids can test quite a bit, and they win. I mean,
Yeah. That's
tests,
what we're-
even though they come positive.
And again, we don't, that's
So,
not.
but we're talking kids' future career, because that'd be on a record for them for maybe one mistake.
Well,
Where's
that's
that
something,
information
that's
go?
something that a lot of people think too, which is not correct, except it's an internal record, and this is really your area, it's an internal record so that we know 1, 2, or 3, if they've had 3, strikes, and there should be a higher thing.
So
It doesn't
it's in
go
their
off to
school
the
record.
college, it doesn't go off to their, whatever that magic permanent record that people seem to have.
Then why have the record, I mean?
Just to monitor if they had X amount of positive results, that's fine.
So if they were to join the forces and they needed security clearance,
It wouldn't show.
it wouldn't be in their school records.
That would come under, I'm not a lawyer, but that would come under we may not, this is a Supreme Court thing, impede a student's progress towards graduation. And that means that, no, band's a good example. There's certain parts of band, if you get a grade in it, then you don't get tested. If you don't get a grade, it's a privilege and you can't be tested. So never hit the academics, again. And I know everyone's concern is always at that far end about what happens there, but that's, like we've already mentioned, a fairly small percentage, because again, it's at the beginning that we're really trying to help the kids. The beginning where they're going, should I or shouldn't I? And we're hoping that, nah, I won't. And-
Did the school contact you or did you contact the school?
We contacted this.
You contacted them?
company.
So,
Oh,
it's
in the-
going to do its thing, do it.
When you were using your sales pitch for the board, you said that a male representative from your lab will do the male students, female will do, is that correct, or?
Typically, it depends on the bathroom situation. If we're doing, let's say we're going to
It's
do,
random, so you're not gonna know if they're male or female, because they're by numbers.
but we'll know before we come out because we make the list.
Okay.
So, but it depends on the bathroom situation, where it depends on. If it's a single stall bathroom, it can be male or female because no one will be going inside. They'll be outside the
Yeah, so if it's the nurse's office and there's only one restroom in the nurse's office.
yeah, so we check the bathroom out, make sure that, we put the blooming in and all that other good stuff, make sure that there isn't anything in being hidden anywhere, and then if it's a male or female, it doesn't matter, we give them the cup, and and et cetera, and then have them go in, they can shut the door, and, you know, and then when they come out. So we don't,
My son has a woman standing outside the stall door waiting for him to clean the cup, it ain't clean the pee.
it's not the bathroom, like.
The actual stuff that's still.
The single bathroom, you know, it's just in the hall.
You gotta make sure it's not an automatic flushing toilet, because in that stall.
All you gotta do is pay for the,
Say it's flush all the time when they're not used to it, and also have to give another.
yeah, they seem to do that during the test sometimes, but if you're at home, they never do. But that's what they do, is we tape off the eyes, because this office switches on.
No way you would accidentally flush.
No, let's say messing with the eye. and such. And that's just part of the operation process, because as I tell them, please remember your art classes, yellow and those are the main green, so if you have a green specimen, it's either you're dipping the toilet or you've got something seriously wrong with you.
Who's our designated official?
I'm not telling. I'm not telling
You don't
you.
have one, or you have one?
No, there will be a school official,
Okay.
but that official will be, I'm not going to release that name yet. And to protect the privacy of that person, it won't be me, I promise you that. It won't be a board member. And I'm not going to even tell the board members who it is. So I'll know who the designated official is. No one else will. And I think that will help maintain the privacy of the student and of everyone else involved, to keep that one person. We were talking about.
Well, it really, the first time you do it, you're gonna.
Yes, that person needs to be there during testing.
They're gonna know right away.
What do you mean, who's going to know?
The student who's being tested.
Your
No,
representative's there.
I'm not talking about the person that's getting the positive phone
You have to
calls.
have two, the designated official and the lab representative right there on.
Yeah, but the designated, the person that's in the office, so I could have Mr. Corey, the high school principal, just sitting there facilitating people. He's not the one that's gonna get he doesn't have to be the person that gets the results, is that correct? Because it could be called a member.
We just talked to.
I just have one question for everybody here that will probably want to know. The chain of custody. When they come, do the children sign their own chain of custody as when they come in to where the urine is?
They sign it, it's an altered procedure for kids. Number one, let's go back to DOT, Department of Transportation, airline, and everything. That's great, but it's like a signed contract, and OC says it's our 18, it doesn't mean anything. So we have an altered way that, we give them a number, so basically a roster number, and that's how they're signed out, and then they do sign back in that same number, saying that, yes, I'm number 17, and my name is, and it's right beside their, the printing names there, and we tell them to sign beside that, saying that yes, it is, and if they whatever, it's never happened, if they ever just say that, I'm under 17, and this is 13, well then, done, we end it there, and we start over again.
Okay, now when they bring their sample out,
And then they just find what to do.
We watch them.
when they bring their sample out and they put it down, is it just like the regular DOT and drug testing? I used to do drug testing in that center, so is it the 2 bottles, you have the 2 bottles, you pour a little bit into the other bottle and do the tamper resistant tape?
Not the 30 and 15, that comes into play if it's a non-negative.
Okay, do
Because
they test right in front of?
the other ones we test immediately and go.
Right in front of them?
No, we don't typically test in front of them, we save them and then test out, but they've already said that that's what it is. So we don't have any switches, we don't have any differences.
So it is a 2-bottle test?
Only, it's a single void. The analogy is, you'll remember that when they first come out, they have that great big cup and then
Yeah.
they tear it off and then the 2 little ones. Well, our cup isn't so big,
Okay.
but we don't do the 2 little ones unless it's a non-negative. Because again, this doesn't fall under DOT. DOT doesn't work well. DOT is much more expensive than
Right.
anything that happens in the lab, and we're trying to keep the cost. They do want $45 for those type of tests.
Yes.
And again, everything falls on the side of the student.
Okay, no, I was just, just to see,
Yeah, so it's,
nobody ever
the
comes back
principles the same,
and says.
that they match and everything, the full chain of custody, it looks the same as a DOT, but it's non-DOT, it's not federal. It goes only out for abnormalities, and then the school designated official is the one that will sign section 5. And it's close to the student, it actually doesn't mean anything to the student side anymore.
Okay.
It's not-
Yeah, that's great.
Now, because the door was back shut in case you were positive.
Yeah, I'm reading that too right now.
Yes.
No, I'm reading that too, Judy. I think that,
That's pretty clear.
in my head, the person that's in that room monitoring it can be different than the person who Kyle is calling to give the results to.
So will they both be trained?
What type of training do
The
we
lady,
need?
like I said earlier.
Well, from what I understand,
supervisor.
his people will be administering the tests only, and our school representative will only be monitoring his employee. Is the way I understand it?
What do you mean?
Or more or less, for example, if you don't have student IDs, I don't know if your school does or
No, we
not.
don't.
Well, we just need someone to say, this is Johnny, and this is whoever, so that there isn't any,
The designated official.
well, it doesn't have to be, I don't know about the policy, but for us, it just has, because a lot of times, we try not to be intrusive, I mean, everyone's busy and such. Sometimes they send out a secretary, sometimes it's an athletic director. Each school is different, that begins with.
It's just somebody who can identify him at that
Right,
point.
I
But-
like your idea of not telling who the designated official is, but I don't think that's gonna work.
Well, it's
Now
not-
you're saying.
Only if there's
we
a
need-
positive, then that designated official will be the person who will monitor that said student has went through the chemical assessment program.
But now you're saying you're gonna have people identify each student as they come in. Well, that's just added people knowing who's coming in and who's
Yeah,
not.
but if-
That's just showing who's getting tested,
Yeah.
and they're all gonna
They're
tell
all-
everybody, but it's
Right.
not
They're all
showing
open to
who's
getting it.
confident and
Right,
who's not.
it's just not confidential. I
Right,
mean-
and then unfortunately, if they're
Right.
coming down to whatever test, in fact, the office, the upstairs bathroom or whatever, there's no way for me to monitor that no one is seeing them walk to a certain
Right.
place.
And there's an advantage, actually, the kids seeing each other a little psychological advantage, I believe, because, let's go back to like Saturday night, and two guys or girls, whatever, same parties, did the same thing, and now one of them gets, pulled for testing, and hopefully the person right beside us going, oh, wow, that could have been me. I think next test, or the next party, I'm going to forego doing this. We've heard stories, we get a lot of feedback from our, it seems to be athletic directors more than anybody, but sometimes principals, especially when kids already graduate and they feel they can talk more, and they tell us a lot of the life stories of how things have changed. Well, not everybody, obviously, but there's a lot of things like, hey, that did help because I was doing these things and I didn't, and I learned, et cetera, et cetera. They're anecdotal, yes, they're not hard scientific things, but again, I encourage anyone to call the schools and be.
But if they partied on a Friday night and they come to school Monday and get tested, what good is it?
Most drugs are water soluble, and it's correct that they have around a 72-hour kind of frame.
72 hours.
Some drugs are
Oh,
fat
okay.
soluble, like marijuana.
Right.
If you do it consistently, it'll build up in your system. Earlier, we talked about alcohol tests and such, so you're back 80 hours. We also, by the way, I like to advertise, and I call it advertising to the kids. Yes, we can test for K2 and spice and things of that nature. There's been a lot of stories around, I've even, like a year ago, fought a youth group that came out and said, synthetic drugs, and at that point, they were semi-legal because they were going back and forth with it. And they can't be tested for. Yeah, they can. So, why do I like to tell kids that? Because synthetics are getting more and more popular, and they are messing kids up real bad.
The kids with the worst problems aren't even in extracurricular activities. That's great.
Well, that's just a school issue. That's an administration school issue.
And there's no way to test those kids.
There's an opt-in program for the parents.
No, not the opt-in, but there's no way to force anybody to.
No.
If they're driving to school,
What's that?
if they're driving to
If
school.
they drive, yes. That's where that Supreme Court thing about privilege or whatever, because the government forces you to go to school, so they can't force you to take a drug test. That's where they say, well, they don't force you to play football, they don't force you, that's their criteria.
At what age can you drop out of school when they quit forcing you?
I don't know.
So now, anybody over 16, they're not forced to go to school anymore, right?
You can drop it.
I have a question about the students that go to Maplewood. Is that considered,
That's a very good question. We're working on that right now.
Is that your vocational school?
If they're
I mean,
buying
they
a-
get graded?
If they're buying a parking permit, that's where the gray area is right now, and we're talking through that. So I don't have an answer for that, but it's a very good point. So, because they're Waterloo students, but they're going to Maplewood. And if they, some of the Maplewood students are engaged in events that are happening on campus back here. So it's gray, it's definitely not black and white. So we as a board are working through how, with Maplewood, to see what would apply.
Can we just put it off? Why don't you just wait a little bit? and
Because it's
take
a
care
small
of it?
population.
Huh?
We'll have it ready, I promise.
Even if the majority of the people don't want it,
The policy has been passed.
but you don't have to implement it yet until everything.
Why
is
do you
out of
say the
gray.
majority of the people don't want it?
Because
you
we
have
don't
a-
have enough feedback.
Because you have a sheet that says that, petition that
And
says
the
that?
petitions that they.
They have hundreds of
Yes.
signatures on petitions.
We didn't do, no one did a petition for the ones that want it, though, right?
Oh, but you went and talked to everybody that wanted it.
I thought they wanted to talk to me.
Did you guys talk to everybody?
Listen, why would you say that about me? I've coached here for almost 15 years. I said, no, because I kept getting interrupted. I said, when Andy was here and he was going to clubs, he was doing everything he could to try to get people to respond to things. It wasn't even something like drug testing. It was, what color do we want to paint the bathrooms? Nobody responded. So, well, I'm not going to say anybody, there was a lot of people, but there's 1,200 kids in this school, you would think that you would get maybe 1,000 responses, that would be great, but we weren't getting that.
For what? Just anything in general?
He was sending out surveys or whatever, so,
Online.
yeah, well, no, he was going to talk in the groups, he was sending stuff home with kids, yeah, Andy was.
He's not here
What,
No, Steve, what you're trying to say.
what I'm trying to say is, what we gained, Renee,
A lot of people
listen.
are in bed trying to raise their families, quit coming down on those people because we're not.
Right, listen, what I'm trying to say is, what we found is that the biggest responses that we got from people was the stuff online. Because everybody's got phones and iPad, not everybody, but a lot of people have, I mean, you could take that survey, I took the survey on my phone. So that was,
I don't get.
well, I'm sorry.
Thousands of people never saw it, and I'm sorry, it isn't okay when you made a decision based on 118 people. That's
No,
that's my whole
But
point right there.
what I did, Renee, and I'll tell you, I spoke with people that had kids in the school. I didn't go out, well, I talked to, you can't help but talk to Rick, but, I mean, it's just, I tried to hit people that had kids in the school. I wasn't going out and,
But this is our investment, it doesn't mean we take the school.
Yeah, how many people are in our community? 10,000 people?
but I tried to hit the,
Cut it.
I tried to hit the people that had kids because it affected them more.
What about the people that pay for this? Pay for the school, the salaries,
I-
the whole community.
building, the salary.
Yeah, considering the fact, considering the fact that our budget is what, $10 million a year? I didn't think that $3,100
It's not
was
the
that
money,
big a
it's
deal.
not the money.
It should have been voted on by the whole
The whole community should
But
have.
that's not the system of local government, you know that.
I don't
There's
care.
well,
That's
you
not
have-
the issue.
You have to care though, because that's what the law
Well, you
says.
advertise to the levy when we don't
You
have kids in the
advertise
school.
for let me make sure everybody knows about that. You throw a bunch of people on signs and everything, you throw down the sign.
That is not from the school. That's from the levy.
So I think that we made enough that we have surplus?
We have enough to afford.
Do we have a projected surplus?
Through the projected levy longevity of 2017.
Okay.
It's a
So the
surplus.
commitment that we made is still alive and well in that number of.
And we'll have a surplus at the end of that.
What we committed to is 11, yes.
As long as the state doesn't change anything, as long as the healthcare doesn't change
Everything,
anything.
well, everything that's within our control.
I don't think money's the issue on this.
No, come on.
I don't-
Well, some people are like
It's
that.
the biggest,
No, everybody has different.
because
Well, it is, but it's not the biggest.
Well,
I think
also,
it's parent
I want to say,
rights.
either the first or the second day of school, all the kids in the high school were addressed and told that this was going to happen. So if your kid talks to you, I know a lot of kids do, some kids don't. I mean, my kid came home and said, "Mom, what the heck is going on?" First or second day of school. Because they addressed all the kids in the high
Is
school.
there a sign on the
When they
building there? I drove by.
What?
Sign tonight about what's happening?
And the flyer I
I
got
don't know.
yesterday at the
I'm not part of
band.
it.
Yeah, I think that would be important.
No, but I'm saying, all the
I
kids in
don't
the
see
school
that.
were
That
told
don't
that this
cost
was
anything.
gonna happen, so
We
I
walked
came home and
we
told
walked in
them.
late because I was at the band concert last night and the flyer said it's dated for next Tuesday at 7. And the mom in front of me
What
said.
flyer?
We got a flyer from some parents outside.
Well, we didn't make a
So-
flyer, so that must have been.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know who made the
Yeah,
flyer.
I'm sorry, I just.
So then, the lady in front of me said, it's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, so that's why we came late, so. We need to know, yeah.
Well,
We're
what
finding
did
that
I
out.
from the school put out for it at 7? And it was 8.
And then I got a phone call too, so. Yeah. Yeah. My phone said different times. So I had 3 different times and dates.
So this first round of tests will be a baseline for the student athletes, the people with the extracurricular activities. It shows that it's not even necessary for that group, or you're going to continue it. Or you're going to see the enrollment drop out of those sports based on their rights.
Well, I think that we're.
I mean, if you see enrollment drop in football,
That's
dance, soccer, whatever it is, I mean, it's really worth it because those,
The trend that, the information that we're getting, that the enrollment does not drop, in fact, it increases.
But say it does.
Well, but when you and I talked over and over, my message was, whispering, my message was that night, that.
from what schools, inner city schools,
Just
or
hold on.
around the country?
Let me just go ahead and answer this one. My commitment was with the board, we will be monitoring the effectiveness of this one way or the other and adjusting accordingly. And if we feel like it's an epic failure, then we will act accordingly. But I'm hard pressed to believe that we can make the judgment on whether it will or will not be an epic failure without trying.
How much percentage?
Epic failure, yeah, or failure.
What percentage is going to convince you that we don't need to spend this money?
I don't have that number.
What
I don't know.
You
I
don't
don't-
believe, you never know.
What do you mean you don't believe?
We don't believe that you would
You
take
don't-
it away. I mean, if you don't have an
Define
idea
failure.
of what a
What's a
failure
failure
is.
is?
If we felt like it was hurting kids.
But we just add
An
an
epic
epic
failure.
failure. Pulling your kids out of their school and decreasing that.
But
That's
it-
considered epic.
Yeah, but to what degree
Well,
and
that's
and
what
how
I'm
much?
asking you. Yeah.
And I don't know, my commitment is that to monitor it effectively enough to, I guess, acknowledge fluctuations, however small or however large, and then as a group, determine what that epic failure is. I think it's an unfair question for you to ask me to quantify what an epic failure is without having that information in front of me.
It's unfair to tell
How about the
me
question
how
you
to
said
raise my
32
child
kids?
and what to
Define
do. You've decided that.
We've decided how your child should come to school and be around other children if your child, it's just for your child's safety, just like everybody else's.
It's
How
my
about let the parents decide?
child.
It'd be great if all the parents were as interested as you is all, is what I'd like to say.
How
It would
many
be
drug
wonderful.
incidents have there been in the last year or two here?
I guess that's fine.
That is-
it's not.
I mean, why is it happening?
Yeah.
We have
I believe that.
I really would like to have some statistics on that. I really would.
Is there
how the decision made.
Is there one kid every time?
What
What
is
is
the
the
concern with the population that's being
Well,
tested?
some-
Right,
some
we
schools
keep
that
everybody
didn't
know,
have it.
right, without parental consent. But nobody.
Melinda, I'm committed.
We have gotten through the years when there was an elementary school, if someone had
head lice or MRSA, we get a notice telling us and warning us, you can't catch drug addiction from sitting next to someone. So, but it is a problem. It is a big problem. If you felt that this was infiltrating the whole school, why wouldn't you send something like that home? It took 2 days to get drug tests delivered to my home for under $30. I didn't do it because I think I need to test the child. I did it because he can know that I can test him. I don't need you to do that for me. But you could tell us if you feel that these kids are in danger. That would have been helpful. Then we could have made the decision ourselves instead of having a state institution tell us, we're going to test your child. And then we have a government telling us, eventually, you have to buy this kind of insurance. They're all connected. It's all government. So who can say down the line that they're going to ask you questions about your child's health? And you have to answer it, right? Because they said you have to. It's individual liberty that is my issue here.
That's what that's why we're all here. Good job.
You guys crossed the line, you really did.
You're taking
I
the
don't
privilege
think
away
there's
from
enough
kids
time
who are
to
just
think
here
of that.
listening anyway to.
We've taken a lot of.
And let me say that
Not a lot of time.
I feel like I've all stepped in my home and told them what.
Let me say this, in their 4 months is how long the board has been discussing it.
Let me
That
say
is not how long I have gotten
please.
complaints about it.
I was at these board meetings, and I was the one person here at these board meetings. So I understand that side of it, that's what they heard, but I also understand these people's side of it who didn't get the information. And like I said, if you send packets home at the beginning of the year and say, you have to sign these and return them, why wouldn't you say,
With
this is a
policy
very
attached,
important
so it
issue,
should all be
we
in
are
our basis of it."
considering
Right.
forcing your children to do this.
I think you
Sign
want to pass
acknowledge.
it, read it later.
Yeah, when we
Pass
got,
it, read it
Yeah,
later.
we got a cross-country package at the beginning of the season, there was nothing in there.
Nobody
It
saw
should've
the
been
copy.
mentioned.
Yeah, why didn't it come home?
Being talked about.
It should have been presented to all of the students.
No, but it's
They
been
don't have to
policy.
sample
This thing
policy
went on for 4 months.
And get their response, but the policy came out after it was all over, and it's not right.
Wasn't the fall sports meeting prior to the
It's
speech?
really important.
Yeah, it was the beginning of August.
They mentioned it there, so if you have a child that was in fall, winter sports, they mentioned it there, and nobody spoke up then.
They also gave out papers that said you have to sign and give back that you read the thing about concussions. I bet we didn't get a third of them back.
And are those kids playing sports?
Mine is.
With that, the parents didn't sign?
It didn't say they wouldn't play if they didn't get it back. It said that they needed to get it back.
You said that this is a problem in the school community here.
I believe it's a problem everywhere.
Sure. What,
How many
the population
here?
of students you are testing, do you think that's where the issue lies?
Yes, I will say again, I think the problem is everywhere. I don't think any group is immune to this problem to some degree. Whether you're a National Honor Society, the star football player, the head cheerleader, I don't think that you are immune to it. I don't.
And someone's not in that group. That's
What
my
about-
problem.
what
You're not
about-
testing you're not testing everybody. You're making this
So, but I
little
can't.
out of this big pool.
I can't. If I could, I would.
Then don't do
And
it.
don't do it again.
Why
I'm doing everything within my power to
But
test as
you're not
many.
God.
Why do they have the law not to test
I'm
everybody?
not-
There's a reason for that. Well, why can't you test everybody? Because it's a
No,
law, correct?
No, because it would require parental consent. It was-
No.
No,
It's the Fourth Amendment.
Yes. So
Oh,
why
it's
would you?
constitutional. It's a
Yes, it
constitution.
is. It is.
No, that's a Supreme ruling. The
So
Fourth
why
Amendment
did you?
says nothing about that. The Fourth Amendment says we have protection against unreasonable search and seizure.
Right.
The Supreme Court ruled after another ruling that they could spread it around to others. It originated with a football team that was a drug problem, influencing the community, and the parents did want their help. Then the Supreme Court expanded it. That's how they got it here. And that's what goes slippery slope here and there, and then it's like.
Do you have any more questions for Kyle regarding the actual program that we were doing.
Thank you for explaining it in detail.
Okay. Do you have any more questions for me?
Why did you decide to go with the Cleveland company instead of something more locally based?
Because the program was highly recommended, and it is one of the closest in the area.
Okay, you didn't check any other closer or get their costs and stuff like that?
And I will say that it's a definition of rush. I just don't feel like it's rushed, and you do, so I don't think we're going to see eye to eye on that.
A week and a half?
And we have parents that are saying, why are you waiting so long? Fall sports are already over, and they're mad.
So I
So
think.
I can I mean, if you want to
Why are
petition
they
that says,
mad?
how many are for it, I can. No, they're mad because they know it's out there and it's not we haven't moved fast enough. And if you came to, 3 board members meetings ago, we had a heated discussion about that.
Well, you're them online.
If you want to get online and see it, you can
Well, we
see it.
did, yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that there was another meeting, I did not know that there was a meeting about it.
Every board meeting we talked about it.
Now, we're going back to the school policy, as you said, if someone tests positive the first time, the next 5 tests, who pays for them? The school?
Do you know how that's normally done? The first positive is.
This is your
the
policy.
parents that- I can ask that question.
Yes, it goes back to the school, actually, because what we typically do with all except one school, we just include that in the cost back to the school, and how they do it, whether the school absorbs it, or if the school decides to have the parent take care of that.
The additional 5 tests, this is me talking now, will be covered by the school.
How about the counseling?
The counseling will not.
How much does that cost?
It's on a sliding scale, and it's a county program, so it depends on the age on. Don't know. Don't have that.
You
Because
don't
it-
have all this written yet, you're ready to push this policy through. Let's
What do
It
you
never
want?
will be written, it depends on your income or her income. Oh my God, right?
Well, why is that?
I'm afraid we're not going to go
The government agencies fluctuate on a sliding scale based on what you can afford. So the parents who's working 2 jobs, if
But now
there's
you
a
want to see
standard.
her.
Now you want to see her.
No, we don't see anyone.
No, but some designated.
Somebody does.
And then there's a law about when you child permanent health record.
No longer protected.
But that's still an outside agency.
Would we have to use
They have no right to look.
their list? They just kind of counseling is under my.
But it actually, you can.
Yeah, so let's say it's not on the list of people that we recommend, as long as you would be in communication with that designated official, then they could work with you accordingly on that.
Is there a middle ground here, do you think?
That's a valid question. What would be the middle ground?
Well, I suppose,
Yeah, I didn't think that was a middle ground.
I thought it would.
I think, see, in my opinion, this is a middle ground because
I told you, that's
way
definitely,
down the
I
road
thought
before
this
you can
was
really
the
have
middle
it,
ground.
so. That's my opinion, but, Steve's opinion is the opposite of mine, so.
Well, Matt, we sat down with Matt on open office hours, and just about the time Hermitage, PA passed a voluntary drug testing policy, where I don't know that I agree with it 100% anymore. I could stomach it a little bit more. It's 100% voluntary, so if your kid doesn't play sports, if she does, whatever. 100% voluntary. When the results come in, they go directly to you. They do not go to the school. And you decide in your home how you're going to deal with it.
So I wouldn't just buy your own test at Giant Eagle for $25 and do it yourself.
If I thought there was a problem, I would.
And if every parent was like you guys, it'd be wonderful. It would be wonderful. We wouldn't even be talking tonight.
I don't pretend to think, oh, Michael's never going to do it.
We have to trust them, but don't be naive either. Keep your eyes open.
My problem is that now you guys are telling me, I have to do this drug testing, or, you know, they have to do this program. And if we're adamant we're not gonna sign that paper, so now when she gets to high school, she won't be playing sports, she won't be doing art clubs, she won't be doing, you know, the things that look good on her college.
Honor society.
All the societies that help their future.
Exactly, and that's my problem there, it's that.
Student council.
It is hurting her.
Right.
Because we don't agree with this, it's hurting her. Because she can't participate in programs that are gonna help her get into those good schools. So, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Anybody else have any other concerns or questions?
No, I think we need to ask, now it's not the forum, but I think at the board meeting, we need to get some consensus and raise a case, asking the board to reconsider and reevaluate their decision and make sure it's the right thing for
Let's
the
get the
entire
whole
community.
community's opinion this time.
Can you call everybody and let them know the time and date and place of the board meeting like you did for this meeting?
Real robocall.
On the
Same
rules?
time.
On what's sad is, look at how many people's here today.
Correct. Still what?
Well, it's just.
Well,
a
you're
chance
looking down,
to-
notice,
a
so-
chance to learn about it.
My kid's been going to school here for 20 years, and I still don't know when the school board meeting is.
Second
Don't have a
Wednesday of
clue.
every month.
I have no problem. If you would like me to do that, I would have no problem doing
We'd
it.
appreciate it, thank you.
I'll make sure it goes out next Thursday at 7, you know when it is.
I know it is, but
But,
the majority of.
I have no problem doing that.
Okay, well,
I just,
I just don't like it, like the playground works for.
I just don't.
I have to
It's
do that.
personally, y'all, I just don't.
Because of
like
this.
it.
Yeah, but my concern is, I was not aware of this. How many of us are not aware of it?
I would say the items that were actually on track to exactly what we wanted to when
You're
we
like,
had.
double,
Because we felt like that was.
I can guarantee it.
Sure.
I have no doubt in my mind.
We put the literature out for X amount of $100,000 for the 2017.
I did not
That
put
we
one
were at
negative other
near
than
that amount.
Melinda being a coordinator is the only
I
thing that
promise
I.
you, if.
But I just think it, you know, and most of the kids, when I talk to
And
them,
we were on target for that number.
or I'll set.
Because I don't know how long we ended up in the bubble.
Because it's taking so long, and we're not being allowed to, and they're like, you got to go in and do it. Sure, what you bring down, but not do it. So, that's how, that's.
Try to go down to the. That's not.
I understand what you're saying.
Well, yeah.
But that's the.
But I mean, if you're
pretty fired up about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
When we were first starting to slide down that slope, and we were talking about making cuts, boom, there's the automated system. How much does it cost?
I told you I don't have, I think, I can call you tomorrow with the number. When I have
Andy told me that system had been here and it was never used.
I don't have the answer to that.
But it hasn't been here forever.
It's been here, it was here a while, it was before even Andy Hill came. And then he found out about it, and he said, why are we not using this? So,
Nobody knows who really paid, who really decided to make that line.
yeah, I mean,
So people that said they were.
catch,
If you were walked up and on the street and said, hey, are you for drug testing? You want to school? I'd say, absolutely. But when I read this, I say, hell no, I'm not for it. I'm for drug testing, but not this policy you guys wrote.
Because you
So
won't.
what's my business? The thing that you need to do.
So these 100 people, you put the policy up, or asked and said, oh yeah, we're for it. Did they know what's in the policy and how it was implemented? No. So how was that a affirmation of the program?
I think we're done.
But
That's how the.
But someone has to ask for drug testing. I am, but not the way this is designed.
What I would recommend is for next Thursday, you go through and you make edits that you think that you would be comfortable.
That's what I know.
Take 5 minutes.
That's how I married, to be fair to me.
That's
But from all the people I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, they get enough people.
They get enough people.
They all were wondering why they could split them.
That's what I'm trying to, that's productive.
Is the contract that you paid,
Man, are we done with
is this
this?
gonna be available to us
Like, we're
online?
done with the camera part.
Should we